Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I am the owner of Moody Quilting Fabrics, and we are on part 6 of the quilt along called Off the Rails. So today we are going to assemble the last block, and we are going to talk about how you're going to put your blocks together, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I want to switch to my overhead camera. And this is the last block we're doing. Last week we assembled this block, and this week we no last not last week. Last week we put this together. 3 weeks ago we did this. Can't remember. I think it was part 3. Anyways, so today we're going to assemble this block. It goes together very similar to the first block we did, block 1, or is it block 2? Anyways, I think the other one was block 1. This is block 2. So I've laid everything out, and what I like to do is I like to stack all the pieces in their order and then just pick each one up. I find it a little faster. So I would pick up, these pieces, and so then these pieces, and so these pieces, and because I stack them in the right order, then I would go and chain sew these together, and just keep doing that till I get all these pieces all sewn together. Then I would take them out of the machine, cut them apart. I don't iron at that point. I will just lay them back into the correct order, making sure that these ones are all pointing in the direction that they're supposed to be pointing. And then I would start assembling this side, doing the same thing. I've stacked all the pieces up in a stack in the correct order, and then I will sew. Now, I have only one left to sew, and I'm going to do that with you here. We are going to pick this up and sew that. We're also going to pick this up and sew that, and we're going to do the same thing here. All right, so now I'm just going to get my iron going because I'm going to have to do some ironing. All right, so we're going to go over to the sewing machine camera, and I have my quarter inch foot in the machine, and I'm just going to line that up and sew this down. Then I'm going to go and pick up the next one and continue. And this is what I mean by chain sewing, okay? So I'm going to chain sew this whole thing, and then if I had more than one block to do, I would just pick up those pieces again and just continue sewing in that manner till all my pieces are sewn together. And then I would cut them out, cut them apart, and put them back in correct order, lay them back out, stacking all the blocks together. And then we would continue on the other side. So let me just cut these apart and clean up a little bit. I like to clean up my threads. So I'm going to go back to the overhead camera, and I'm going to put these back in the correct order. So if I was doing multiple blocks, I would stack all of them back into the right order, and then I would start sewing this up. So let's do that now. We're going to do that side. Okay, there we go. This is going quite quickly. And there we go. Now, let me just get this cut apart. And we're going to iron these pieces before we sew the rows together. So let me just get back to the other camera. All right, so now I'm going to get these ironed. Let me just move my cutting board. And now we're going to just iron these. So I have to make a decision, and I like to iron the center in and these out. So that's what I'm going to do. I also like to use a steam iron. I know there's people out there that go, "Oh my God, a steam iron? No, 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 no." But I started with dressmaking, and then I went to I made all my clothes as a teenager or young woman, all my office stuff, because I worked in an office at the time as an accountant, and so I like the steam because I get a better there we go. I just get a nice crisp with a steam. It works better for me. Now I'm going to make sure that everything is put back into its proper place before I pick these up. And I always, even when I hand quilt my pieces together, my blocks together by hand, I would have a board that I would place everything, and then I'd pick up two hand sew it, place it back down into its position, and then pick up the next pieces that I wanted to sew together. It's the same concept here, except you're sewing a lot faster. So now I want to get this sewn, and what I want to do is I want to line these seams. I want to make sure that these seams here, these two seams, these two, and these two, are all nesting nicely. And sometimes they're not, and you have to manipulate them into place. But these ones seem to be doing just fine. So we're going to go over to the sewing machine. Now you can pin at each seam once you get them to be nested, so they don't shift on you or change or anything. But these are nesting. These are nesting just fine. I'm using my fingers to feel. And actually, I'm just going to drop my needle because I keep stopping because I need to make sure that I have nested these nicely. So I'm just going to go a little further, and then I'm going to stop and double check that that looks good. I can feel it nicely. So then I'm going to just sew. I'm holding that seam in place. Once I get to it, I can move on to the next seam. And here we go. So that row is on. And again, if I was doing multiple blocks, I would just chain sew these two together from block to block to block. All right. We're going to sew on. I'm going to trim because I like to clean up as I go. And I do that because then I won't have as much. My fingernail just snapped. Okay. All right. So we're going to check those seams again. And they seem to be nesting nicely. So then I'm going to go ahead and get that sewn together. So this quilt is a very easy quilt. It's not hard. This is part 6. So we have one more part after this to do, and then this series is over. And if you'd like to see more of these series, please ring the bell and let me indicate to me if you want to see more of these. The pattern, I'll put the link down below for the pattern. This is my pattern. So you can buy it on my website at madmoodyquiltingfabrics.com. But like I said, I'll put the link down below. All right, so let me cut the excess threads and clean this up. And now I'm ready to iron this. So I'm just going to hit the seams just to relax the thread. And then I'm going to go ahead and just quickly now I'm going to pull this back and check the other side because I want these seams to be nice and crisp. And there is the block. So now, once all the blocks are finished, we need to put the blocks together. So I started with this block. So let me just switch back over to the front. Okay, so we have this block, which is here, and we have this block, which is there. And so we used, and I believe this is block 2. I believe this is block 2. So I did one, and then this one, and then finished with that. So it's 3 across, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows down. So you're just going to go ahead, and let me just move back to the overhead camera, and I'm just going to grab these blocks, and you're just going to go ahead and lay these out and sew them together. So let me just lay out 2 rows, and so this one will go here, and like that, and like this. And then these are the 2 rows. And then you'll repeat row 1. Let me go back to the other camera. So I just laid out these 2, and you would repeat row 1 for row 3, and row 4 is the same as row 2. So you continue that till you've done all your rows, and then you will sew all the blocks together in those rows, in those combinations of rows, and then you would sew the rows together, and that's your body. So that's it, and next week we will talk about borders. So we'll see you next week on the last and final episode of this series. So we'll see you next week. Happy quilting. Bye-bye.